Have you ever wanted a PC? In this video, I'll tell you about a $400 PC you can buy to play some games and edit videos. Before we start, I want to mention that if you decide to buy this PC, the cost might be higher or lower depending on your country. Look for the components on websites where they are sold cheaply and are reliable. Now, let's begin. First, the processor. The processor we will use for this budget build is the Ryzen 5 4600G, an AM4 platform processor with 6 cores and 12 threads, clocked at 3.70 GHz. Why did I choose this processor? I chose this processor because it has integrated graphics called Vega 7, which have performance similar to a GT 1030, an old graphics card known for running many games well. Additionally, this processor costs only between $80 and $110. Second, the motherboard. The motherboard we will use for this PC is the MSI B550M Pro with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. This motherboard is a very good option, priced between $90 and $110. As mentioned before, it includes Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, has 4 DDR4 RAM slots, 1 PCIe 4.0 slot for storage, and several PCIe 3.0 slots for additional storage. This motherboard also allows you to upgrade to a Ryzen 7, obviously of the AM4 platform. Third, storage. You can use any SSD, but it should be at least 240 GB. A 120 GB SSD will only be enough for the operating system. However, I recommend the Acer FA100 with 512 GB or 1 TB. Fourth, RAM. For RAM, I recommend using 2 modules of 8 GB each, totaling 16 GB, with a frequency of 3200 MHz and DDR4. You can use any model as long as it meets these specifications, and make sure the latencies are low. Fifth, the power supply. For the power supply, you can use the XPG Pylon 550W. But if you plan to upgrade the processor and graphics card, do some research. Look for power supplies on tier lists that fit your budget. Ensure the power supply is at least 100 watts more than what your PC will consume. How can you determine how much power your PC will consume? Check reliable websites for the power consumption of each component, including fans, and sum them up. The total will be the power your PC will need. Finally, the case. For the case, you can use any that costs between $40 and $60. Make sure it fits all components and matches the size of the motherboard. Also, ensure it has good airflow. If it comes with fans that provide good airflow, even better. Now that you know the components of the PC, let's talk about its advantages, disadvantages, and possible future upgrades. First advantage, it is cheap, costing very little for a PC. The price varies but stays between $400 and $450. Second advantage, upgradable in the future. This PC has a motherboard that supports up to Ryzen 7, so you can upgrade the processor in the future. If you chose a good power supply, you can also add a graphics card. Disadvantages. First disadvantage. It uses an older platform, AM4, which is older compared to the newer, more expensive AM5. What do I recommend upgrading in the future? First, you can add a graphics card. If you stick with the Ryzen 4600G, you can use an RX 6600 without any problems, being the best option in terms of quality and price. You can also use an RTX 3060 if you prefer NVIDIA. You could also use an RX 7600 or an RTX 4060, for example. If you upgrade the processor to something like the Ryzen 7 5700X3D, you could use an RX 7700 XT or a 4070 without any issues. I recommend researching which graphics card you can use with this PC. Second, I recommend upgrading the processor to a Ryzen 7, like the Ryzen 7 3700X, which is better than the Ryzen 5 5600X and remains affordable. Another processor I recommend is the Ryzen 7 5700X3D, which, while more expensive, is much cheaper than the Ryzen 7 5800X3D, one of the best AM4 processors. Third, this is related to the processor. You should get a better cooler because, when upgrading to Ryzen 7, the processors are more powerful but also generate more heat. Research a cooler that keeps the processor's temperatures in check. Now that we've finished talking, I will show you how some games run on this PC with integrated graphics. In Fortnite on low graphics settings, we can get between 100 and 130 FPS. In Valorant on low graphics settings, we can get between 100 and 120 FPS. In GTA 5, a heavier game, on medium graphic settings, we can get between 40 and 55 FPS. In Rainbow Six Siege, another heavier game, on medium graphic settings, we can get between 50 and 61 FPS. This is the end of the video. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to buy a thumbnail or banner, check out my Fiverr links. I also invite you to comment on your own budget builds, and the best ones will be featured in a future video. Thanks for watching and goodbye.